Yo, check this out. This is Wayne Wonder, representing for Warieka LTV. You see the vision, don't it? See the vision. Warieka LTV. Keep it locked.
Now, I'm gonna tell you. We, us as bloggers, these are the issues that we need to address. You understand what I say? You see? Set the path for the youth. Share, like, and subscribe and stay tuned to the channel because I don't know all this. Yes, I. Greeting once again in the mighty name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie the First. You see it? As you know, you don't know, we love get certain document to share certain knowledge with the item. See? So once I welcome all viewers and subscribers. See? A1 Shine. Big up yourself, my general. See? So Nerville, big up yourself. Jabib, the elder, big up yourself every time. You know, see it. Man like Bombard, big up yourself. Mama Pinchy, bless up yourself. You know, see it. Yeah, be a knowledge. You know, see it. Yeah, man. Poochie, bless up yourself too. Yeah, a couple days now, I'm going to hear from you. I'm going to see a big laugh. I hear a big laugh. Miss Lisa Smith, don't know. Big up yourself. Yeah. New book. See? It named Death Row. This is a vivid, a deep look into the, I read from the back of it, seeing, but as you can see, it's a unit named Mario Hector. Right? Seeing? You can get the book off of Amazon and things like that, and have a look inside of Jamaica's death row. See? So, let me read from the back first. Because I want to read every word we print. Yeah, so for the item. So I'll start with the back part where they give you like a little thing. Tell you a thing about Mario Hector. See? Mario Hector, a young Jamaican, tells us in this autobiography that what it feels like to be wrongfully arrested for murder at the age of 17, to await trial for 2 years, and then be convicted and sentenced to death. The subsequent public furor led to his spending 2 further years in the condemned cells awaiting possible stay of execution. The Jamaica Council for Human Rights took up his case, and his sentence was in the end commuted to life imprisonment. In this book, Mario goes beyond his own personal anger and despair to reveal the inhumanity of prison and of capital punishment in a country whose institutions are still run on colonial lines. So oppressive were the conditions under which he and other prisoners were held that they were provoked into staging the first prison revolt in Jamaica's modern history. This revolt compelled Michael Manley, Prime Minister at the time, to visit the prison to talk to the author and set up a commission of inquiry. This commission was led by Dr. Lloyd Barnett, chairperson of the Jamaica Council for Human Rights. Mario did not give in, despite his youth, to the brutalization and apathy that prison life so often leads to. In addition to his work on behalf of his fellow prisoners, he embarked on a long path of self-education, eventually taking several university degree courses by correspondence. He wrote this book while still in prison. In 1983, Mario Hector was at last released after having served nearly 11 years in gaol. He then worked with the Jamaica Council for Human Rights, helping with its prisoner rehabilitation program. Yes, I saw the book named Death Row. See it? Written by Mario Hector. See, like me someone read everything. See? To Paul Hector. A note to Paul Hector. Not only do prisoners suffer mercilessly and unjustifiably beatings from callous prison staffers, but they are routinely subjected to prison conditions which evoke memories of the slave ship of the Middle Passage. The absence of rehabilitation program, realistic prison industries, continual presence of peer group pressure maintaining the macho image, basic survival in a jungle environment, discriminatory judiciary where the poor feels it more, protracted periods in remand and no avenue for redress to genuine problems of injustice or otherwise, all help in tipping the balance in favor of phobias, anxieties, neurosis, and psychosis. See, now, more and remember, say, it's a book here, I read it, but you know, everything will happen, everything will happen for me same time too. So I say, so, don't feel no way if you see me get pulled back by certain realization, you know, see it. Alright. I could not publish this book without acknowledging the help and encouragement given me by some very fine people on both sides of the wall. Some brothers incarcerated at the Gun Court General Penitentiary and at St. Catherine District Prison who at different times risk brutality and punishment to protect this manuscript and whose valuable criticism and moral support meant so much. The lady who typed it, my attorney, Roy Taylor, who reinforced my confidence, my brother Lauren, and a very special black woman, Maxine, who inspired and worked so hard to ensure the publication of this book, Mario Hector. Forward. Commissions of inquiry have previously described the horrible conditions. No, this is another thing I have to read to. Sorry, before the forward. Mario Hector was gunned down in Jonestown, Kingston, Jamaica, while this book was in press. Why and by whom is not yet known. We at Z Books extend our deepest condolences to Mario's widow and family. August 1984. That. See? So we have to read the foreword, you know. See, then the introduction. See, because we have got through the book, you know, the item get full, yeah. Commission of Inquiry have previously described the horrible conditions existing in certain prisons, but never before has anyone in the English-speaking Caribbean expressed so poignantly the fear and frustration, the despondencies and resentment, the pain and suffering experienced in the prison system, and particularly by condemned men. The author speaks from the anguish of a soul tortured by a sense of personal injustice, but with the intellectual fervor of a mind which refused to be subjugated. The book is therefore not only a vivid description of particular episodes of the general life in a Jamaican prison, nor is it merely a critique of a penal system. It's a revelation of the innermost feeling of human being with unique experiences. Although the author proceeds on some hypotheses which are difficult to support, such as that colonialism is responsible for the existence of capital punishment, death row exposes some of the injustices and inequities of our legal and social system. He offers a genuine challenge to society as a whole. This book demands that we should treat the inmates of penal institutions as human beings capable of redemption and not as statistical figures fit for erasure. Jamaica Council for Human Rights. Alright. So the introduction now. You see it. Yeah. On the 31st of December 1983, Mario Hector, the author of this remarkable document, was 31 years of age. He is currently serving a life sentence in St. Catherine District Prison, Jamaica, and is about to start his second year of a BSc course within the Department of Social Science, University of the West Indies. In 1970, he was arrested at his home in Jonestown, Kingston. In February 1972, he was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. Between 1972 and 1975, Mario Hector lived on death row in St. Catherine District Prison. It was there that he began his long struggle for his death sentence to be commuted to life imprisonment and for his ultimate freedom. The experience born out of these 3 years encouraged Mario to write Death Row, and it is this period of his life that the book reflects. The phenomenon of Mario Hector's struggle cannot be seen in isolation from the politics of the Jamaican prison system and the overall social, economic, and political state of affairs in post-colonial Jamaican society. In this respect, Death Row is important as it is not an autobiography, despite its autobiographical approach, but a remarkable account of the Jamaican prison system and the desperate need for reform within this area. The penal system in Jamaica comprises of 6 prisons scattered across the island. There are 3 minimum security prisons and 3 maximum security prisons. The notorious General Penitentiary is the largest of the maximum security prisons. It was formerly the location of the largest slave market of the English-speaking Caribbean and was transformed into a prison in 1845, just 7 years after emancipation. Today, it is an institution serving an equally oppressive and negative purpose, and it was there that Mario awaited trial for almost 2 years. St. Catherine District Prison is the 2nd largest maximum security prison and the home of the gallows, one of the 3 maximum security prisons. Rehabilitation Center is the island's most modern. It was built in 1974, and it is significant that it came into existence at the same time as the controversial Gun Court Act 1974. Persons sentenced under this act for the illegal possession of firearms are sentenced to life imprisonment. The act was introduced by the then Manley government in response to the rising rate of violent crime. It is interesting to note, however, that in 1974, this state of affairs was not unprecedented. Gun crimes featured prominently, in particular in the Kingston area during the late 1960s and especially in the campaigning months before the 1972 election. What was new in 1974, however, was the gunslaying of 2 prominent businessmen. The illegal use of firearms was tolerated so long as they were used to persuade poor people to align with a particular political party or used to defend particular residential areas from political gunmen from opposing areas. It was a different matter, however, when these guns were used in crimes against property and big businesses. New York, London, and Toronto are 3 cities that have a substantial number of Jamaican ex-gunmen, once aligned to either the JLP or the PNP. Most left Jamaica hastily and illegally, and most boast that officials of the particular party they were working for actually aided them in securing false documents in order to fly out. The young brother who persuaded me to correspond with Mario back in 1978 owned at least 3 passports bearing different names. He made no secret of the fact that while in Jamaica he was a PNP badman and felt justified as his existence before that was one of relative poverty in a tenement yard in West Kingston. It is not surprised that the badman who fly out will sometimes boast of his success as a political gunman. You see, easy, In the case of the youth who introduced me to Mario, his personal record was 11 killings. Naturally, all of the victims were of the same class and background as himself, yet the youths who may at one time have had some political affiliation but made the mistake of turning his attention to property, or rather the acquisition of property, unlike the bad man who miraculously escaped law and fly out, very rarely escape either the death sentence or life imprisonment. In 1979, over 80% of prisoners were imprisoned on property-related charges. More than 90% of all prisoners were from a lower working class background and environment. And importantly, 85% were youth between the age of 12 and 26, and only 43% of the total were literate. Jamaica is well known for its gross inequality in the distribution of its wealth and income. The notorious and conspicuously luxurious homes of Beverly Hills and its immediate environ look down mockingly at the sufferers of the Kingston shanties. The Cadillacs, BMWs, and Volvos jostles with handcarts and overcrowded minibuses in the narrow streets of Kingston, while the ruling class wallows in luxury. The vast majority of the population eke out of precarious livelihood in an environment of increasing unemployment, malnutrition, and child labor. It is not surprising then that the barbarity of the wider society is reflected in its prison system, where the erosion of the prison's basic human right is commonplace and provokes no official response and little public protest. During his 13 years in the prison system, Mario spent time in all three maximum security prisons. After 1975, he was constantly relocated by the authorities, who viewed his organizing activities and entry into higher education with suspicion and contempt. On the 15th of November 1979, the authorities, under the direction of the then Commissioner of the Department of Correctional Services, Dudley Allen, transferred Mario from the Rehabilitation Center to St. Catherine District Prison. This followed the election of Mario as president of the Student Council by the inmates at rehab. Immediately following his election, Mario was brought before the superintendent and warned that he would be severely brutalized if he were to lead the council along any militant lines. The following week, the Students' Council held a debate on the Gun Court Act and decided that they would petition the Minister of Justice on the issue. Mario, using his contacts, had copies sent to all areas of the media in Jamaica. At that time, the minister, Carl Rattery, was off the island, and his secretary received the petition and sent the council an acknowledgement. Due to the consequent press and radio coverage given to the council's petition to the minister, Commissioner Allen ordered the immediate transfer of Mario to St. Catherine District Prison. It was under his order that on arrival at St. Catherine's, Mario was located on the psychiatric block. His books were taken away, and all the indication were that he would no longer be able to study for further exams. In 1980, however, I received a reply to my letter inquiring about this state of affairs from the Minister of Justice. Although this letter said nothing concrete, I later learned from Mario that since my letter had been received by the minister, his situation had improved and he was once more in possession of his books. As of February 1982, Mario had been due for parole. In January 1982, he wrote in his letter to me, "I have already filed my application for a location at the prison hostel. The superintendent and 3 other senior officers have given me some good reports, and I am 90% sure that when my case comes up, I'll be accepted." Mario was not alone in believing that he was sure to be granted parole. Not only had he himself entered into higher education and secured a first-class pass with distinction in his first degree, but he was actively encouraging other inmates to study. Most of his spare time was spent as a JAMAL, Jamaica Adult Literacy, and JSC, Jamaica School Certificate teacher within the prison. When I visited Jamaica in July 1982, Mario informed me on my first visit to him in St. Catherine District Prison that it would only be a matter of days before he was moved to a pre-release hostel. By the end of August, on my return from St. Lucia, Mario was still hopeful that he was to be relocated or given parole. Before the start of the new university term in September, I was also assured by the Department of Correctional Service that things certainly did look set for the coming September. When I left Jamaica on the 20th of September, Mario was still in St. Catherine's. In June 1983, all indications are that he is still awaiting words as to when he can expect parole. Knowing Mario as I do, I believe he is hopeful that his book can help to create some meaningful debate on the whole issue of capital punishment and penal reform in Jamaica and elsewhere. Of the book, he said, when death row becomes a book, I will have made my contribution to penal reform. And no matter what happens to me, I know the struggle must continue. And of capital punishment, Jamaica is one of the few Caribbean states still retaining capital punishment. The struggle for the abolition of capital punishment is my struggle in my life. Capital punishment will always affect only the poor of Jamaica, and this will certainly be one of the reasons why the chances of any meaningful debate on the issue within decision-making circles is remote. If only the poor people in Jamaica, that is the vast majority of Jamaicans, examine the fact that of all victims of the human's noose, of all victims of state murder, few, if any, are from the middle class. Why is it that it is only poor people's children who fill the prisons? Why is it that it is only they who are serving life sentences and are housed on death row? Jamaica is full of contradictions, and it is time poor people began questioning these contradictions more deeply and indeed organizing to overcome them. You hear that? Yes, the book is nice. Nah, tell you that I want to go out here. Yeah, my boss. The first chapter 1 named Genesis. You see. Yes, So, chapter 1 of Psalms 23, verse 1 to 4. See, I read for the item, see me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. This is indicative of a speech that I make when we say, when we're in a prison, one of the main things you head draw for. A God, religion, faith. You know, see, so that's why that Mario make it in point of duty to put a psalm, make a reference to where him head there, where him whole expectation and defense there. See, at the first entry of the first chapter of the book. You know, see, again, I repeated this last sentence, and again, I found it did not dispel or mitigate the deep-rooted fear and desperation that had seized my mind since the jury had gone about their deliberations some 2 hours ago. Beginning from the very moment of their departure, I had gone over this prayer countless times, frantically seeking equilibrium and a ray of optimism, realizing with each repetition that it did nothing to ease my state of mind. Still, it facilitated a conscious distraction from the frightening realities of the situation, my secret hideout. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Mechanically mopping the sweat from my forehead, I gazed around the courtroom at the people moving about in tiptoed reverence. Behind me, the visitors' gallery was half filled with friends, relatives, curious old ladies, freaks, and professional case watchers, attracted but unattached. They all came with fixed questioning stares on their faces, believing themselves a part of the unfolding spectacle, not understanding that their presence was irrelevant. But in the midst of all the murmuring, stares, and growing excitement, I was never more alone. Beside me, Winston sat immobile, shut away in his own thoughts. We were charged jointly with our lives now resting on the decision of 12 people, for now we were all alone in the separate world of our thoughts. Brutally, the fear within surged to capture my consciousness, blocking out the irrelevance of the world, dragging my mind to focus on the awesome threat at hand, forcing me into the darkness of panic. Justice would prevail. Justice would prevail. Justice would prevail. I urgently sought to convince myself. Surely the judge and jury would not be caused to err by the lies represented by the crown. Justice, by some unexplained interrelations of the fact, would prevail. Yes, justice would prevail. Would it? Would it? A voice born of experience seemed to ask from the inner recess of my mind again. I plunged into fear, despair, and desperation. Only God could help. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restored my soul. Yea, though. Yo, instead of feeling that despair that when in at the jury dock, wait for the jury, 12 people to come back on the side of faith. When I read it a while ago, my consciousness just reverse right back. Like me just basically just zone out from your song, go right back into the court dock. I wait for the thing. You know, see it? But you don't know me could continue still. You know, see it? Abruptly, a court orderly appeared in the entrance and signaled to the policemen scattered around the courtroom. People hastened through the door in search of seats. Up front, the attorneys put out their cigarettes and the general murmur petered out. I was by then assured that the jury was about to return. That all-important moment I had so long awaited with such fear and hope had arrived. As the jury filed into the court, I meticulously scrutinized their individual features for some indication of the decision lodged in their minds. Why were they seemingly avoiding my stare? If only one could glance in my direction, shifting my gaze. I raked the face of the others gathered in the court. Maybe I would find some sign here. I was immediately frustrated, for the stares fell into two categories. The Samaritans, relatives, and friends, whose stares told us their optimism and hope, and the vultures, the freaks and professional case watchers, whose eager stares told of their lust for an occasion of excitement. All the characters in this bizarre life drama was assembled. The last chapter had begun, as the clerk chanted the now familiar, oh yeah, God save the Queen, formalizing the resumption. The fear I had so desperately fought since morning now seemed certain to conquer my fragile mental equilibrium. The Queen was safe and secure thousands of miles away in another world, yet the clerk was entreating God to save her. What about me, sitting in limbo right before his eyes? What about me? How do you find the accused, Mario Hector? The straight-faced clerk inquired of the foreman of the jury. After ordering me to stand, silence. The whole world had come to a halt. Silence. We find him guilty as charged. Silence. Forced heavily. Fear-filled silence. Dizziness engulfed me. The whole place was swaying. From somewhere behind me came a scream, followed by explicit murmuring. Something was wrong. Why didn't the judge or somebody correct them? Fools, vultures, why didn't somebody correct them? Where was God? Where was God? Through the haze of what was from what was not, somebody was shouting, sit down, sit down. The shouts became hands putting me down, shattering my hopes, killing me. They were killing me. Mechanically, I sat. Nothing mattered now. They were going to hang me. No longer did I search for any fantasies. The truth was too awesome, too real and painful. I was dead. Dead. Stand up, the voice ordered. Mechanically, I complied. Nothing mattered now. Did I have anything to say before the sentence was passed? Did I have anything to say? I wanted to shout, to curse the judge, jury, life, the vultures and freaks. I wanted to beg them to reconsider their decision, to cry, to bark, to shout. Did I shout? Sit down. That same voice. Sit down. Something had gone wrong again. I did not hear the sentence pass. Sit down. Sit down. The instant court adjourned. It was pandemonium. The instant court adjourned. It was pandemonium. Behind me, the cry now sounded like a bereaved choir. The police sergeant bawled for another to close the doors, simultaneously ordering the jostling crowd in the gallery to remain seated. 3 other cops moved in to surround me, each taking possession of a section of my trousers waist. Handcuffed and draped, I was hauled through the now sullen crowd gathered in the corridors to the cells downstairs, locked away pending transportation to death row. I became bitter and frustrated. Babylon had committed me to die, not because I was guilty as charged, but because the whole concept of justice as perpetuated in the court of the land was distorted and perverted. Justice in these chambers of mockery and generalship, trickery or deceit was not concerned with the truth. Truth was irrelevant. Reason rebuffed and equality ever absent. Nor was the process concerned with the merits of right and wrong. The determinant factor of the process was the status of who had done the wrong or was innocent. If justice, clothed in her wig and the multicolored cloak, accompanied by her 7 or 12 subordinates, gazed upon the dock and was not sufficiently impressed by the status of the accused and of representation, she would close the door to her favors. No presentations of fact, submission of reason, or a line of morality would induce her to open this all-important door that might very well mean life or death, freedom or captivity. Status was the key. Status built of material and or political influence. Without this prerequisite, all efforts to gain her favor are futile, for she is a prostitute. Her favor is for sale. Now I stood fearful and frustrated before her closed doors. There was nothing abstract about this process of injustice as it unfolded before my eyes. The judge, jury, crown, and defense counsel, witnesses, myself, and Winston were the characters of the instant. Where justice is honorable, it is the independent conclusion of the interrelations of fact, faith's opinion, and people aligned to the universal principles of right and wrong that mattered. It was because the process was perverted and the interrelations of fact, evidence, and law, the entire courtroom fiasco, not an independent entity, but directly influenced, developed, and subjected to the isms and movements of the broader society, that I, a working class dread, had no chance in the court of Babylon. And what of God? Didn't he have a responsibility here? He, being the omnipotent, knew I had not murdered the deceased. So how comes he allowed people to swear on his Bible and then spit out such lies and distortions? Why did he allow such lies and misrepresentation to railroad me into the sentence of death? The drive out to the old capital across the causeway seemed quick on this occasion. Burdened and despondent, I peered through the ventilators, gazing at the familiar landmarks going by for the last time, while mentally castigating life, fate, and Babylon for their concerted effort to destroy me. If this was my predestined fate, the ignominy of death on the gallows, then I would have been content, stillborn. Halfway through my second pack of cigarettes, the imposing 18th century structure of the St. Catherine district prison came to view, dark and foreboding. Its massive structure dominated the surroundings with that grey, archaic, and wasted appearance that immediately called to mind sanitariums, poorhouses and graveyards. Indeed, this was the ambit of existence for the majority of its inhabitants. The sight of this bastion of captivity dragged my already weary spirit further into the darkness of despondency. By the time the oven came to a halt before its gate, by the time the oven came to a halt before its gate, be a drama, you're the man dramatic, one after another. I love them. We don't want them stop. Once inside, the handing over ceremony was brief and indicative. The police removed their handcuffs and the warders replaced them with the prisoners. A senior warder behind a bare battered desk drew up the body receipt, which the cops duly signed. After copying my particulars, the senior warden inquired of my religious affiliation. Not feeling exactly religious after the morning's happening, I replied that I adhere to none. Okay, he said, you are now a Presbyterian. He said it with an air of finality that suggested that the matter was closed. Winston was made a Catholic. With this ceremony, I was transformed from a world where I was an individual man to a world where I was just another body to be itemized, documented, and secured where I was awaiting the will and caprice of the earth gods. Yo! Wait, the whole lot there. Inside the prison proper, my initial perception of the place was confirmed. Over and above the pungent stink of waste, decay, and disinfectant was an abnormal uniformity of its structures that did not suggest sane human habitation. A fierce, somber funeral parlor silence, and that hazy coming from the nowhere going nowhere movement of its captive, depicting broken spirits and forced stagnation. This was hell. After the ceremony, we were escorted to the reception room. As the name implies, this is the area where all incoming prisoners are processed on entry. Here one is fingerprinted, photographed, and a detailed description recorded. For the first time since my incarceration in 1970, I was given a thorough skin search by an enthusiastic warder under the eyes of an officer who was satisfied that I had no cash or weapon, only after peering deep down my throat and peeping up my ass. Our clothes was taken. We were given prison uniforms made from coarse white material. At the time of the uniform, At the sight of the uniform, I almost laughed. Not only was the suit ridiculously too large, but more sinister was the word condemn, written in bold black letters across the back of the shirt. A1 was scrawled in the same size letters on the front of one leg of the short trousers. As soon as I put on the shirt, the writing on the back began to bug my mind. Why the hell did they have to write on the back of the shirt? Did somebody believe I would forget my status? As yet, I was not aware that this was part of a psychological torture to which prisoners on death row were forcefully subjected to as a policy of administration. From the reception room, we were moved to death row. Death row is that area of the prison particularly secured and segregated from the general prison population for the location of prisoners under the sentence of death. Previously, the row was conveniently located some 50 yards south of the gallows. As the influx of such prisoners increased, death row was relocated to occupy one ward on A block. Each block had 4 wards. The row was A1. The marking on the charts in time A1 was filled and the ward above A2 was fortified to entertain the increase. Like A1, its extension A2 was caged with interlaced steel. Each door had 4 locks, and as we approached, there was a conspicuous absence of any sound or movement on the row. A posse of curious warders and prisoners assembled at the entrance to the row. One warder came forward asking my name. Mario Hector, I replied. How old you is? 19. Unexpectedly, I was knocked to the ground. You think you're talking to your companion, boy? He was fuming with righteous indignation. When you're talking to me, boy, you damn well say, sir. How old is you, boy? 19, sir. He smiled. Imagine a little pistol-tailed boy like you out there kill people, eh? Without waiting for an answer, he continued. Why you kill the man? I no kill no one, sir, I replied timidly. Are you do it then? He asked, pointing to Winston. I innocent, sir, came the reply. So the two are uno is innocent, eh? He moved closer to Winston. Answer me, boy. Winston was going to get his answer me, boy, moving in, eyes glaring, a pillar of self-righteousness. Winston was punched against the rails. So you is a boxer, sir? At Winston's futile attempt to block the punch hammered by the handcuffs. Lock them down. The same senior warder from the gate arrived on the scene. Lock them down. Never in my life was I ever so burdened, weak and desperate as the first few minutes after that door slammed shut. The onus of the day's happenings, the traumatic and fretful presence, and the dark, precarious future rested like giant weights on my soul. Everything was one cold blanket of reality, and there was nothing I could force my consciousness to accept as deviation. No mental escape or pretended optimism, just reality and me. It is difficult for the rational mind to accept the finality of death, even though the finality of death is rational. Indeed, to accept the finality of death is to reject the disability of life, the desirability of life. Few people experience the state of mind where the desirability of life is rejected. Those who do, the psychologists declare unbalanced. The rational mind rejects the finality of death because it is assured of no other existence but the present life period. Of course, we were all taught of heaven and hell, alleged to be the predestined final home of all mankind, but as yet none have gone to either destination and returned to tell the tale. This is the only life man know, and even when the person assure him that he's got a place in heaven, he's in no hurry to go there. The very reason for ongoing scientific research and efforts to identify that magic formula to prolong life stems from man's difficulty in accepting the finality of death. Vaguely, of course, man accepts that his body will age, his tissues wither, and his body die. To this end, he will insure himself and such like, but when death arrives in its finality, will still be asking the doctor if he has tried everything. The reality of planned murder was a different thing. Man has that capacity for cruelty, violence, and the destruction of others that lacks no illustration in the pages of history. This characteristic of humankind is never far from the forefront of his mind. Had I been up against the police or the Spanglers, local gang of youths on the streets, I would have a chance. This was a different thing. This was Babylon, that cold, unfeeling system of class rule and domination that self-defenselessly perpetuated its will through institutions of social control and exploitation. I would not be the first life snuffed out by Babylon. Thousands had been murdered with slave labor, whips, gallows, and guns over a period of its 300 odd years of domination to keep the system intact. Yes, sir. So that's chapter 1. You see it? Chapter 2 now named Babylon. See it? So we are going to get into it. See, because like I said, interesting and explosive. See it? So we are dealing it and we are dealing Born for Dead. See it? So we are explore some documents. Yeah. See it? So we give thanks. See it? And I hope the item like it. Be prepared for chapter 2 coming very soon because I love that book here, see chapter 2 in Babylon. That go on. R.I.P. Mario Hector. See it? Enough respect to all of the family them and descendants of the general, Yes, I give thanks. Share, like, and subscribe. Rastafari. Remember, this is a true reflection of somebody's experience, somebody who was on death row in Jamaica. This is true document of what he saw. Yeah, man. Share, like, and subscribe. Give thanks.